Good morning, everyone. I'm up here again. I must say, though, when you preach, a lot of people, I have to say, I'm not one for canned sermons, okay? I have to let something happen in my life. The Spirit works in me to give me something that is going to be helpful for me and hopefully helpful for you. I did not know, I have it on here. I did not know what I was going to preach on Tuesday. People ask me, what are you going to preach on? I have not a clue. Wednesday, kind of. But then I got an inspiration, I guess. Was talking with Chloe and Jeff, and they told me about what their son Garrett was doing some writing. And they said, yeah, and he's got a devotional too. You ought to read that. And I did, and that's what inspired this lesson today, was his thoughts. So I have to give him credit. And then I told Paul about it, and then he had to give me some info that was very well for this, so I have to give him credit also. But I have to give credit to God mostly, because he's the one that gave me the word to use. As you can see, the title of the lesson is Scars. And we're going to be in James chapter 1 shortly. But I want to give a little bit of a prelude to this. And I give this information, I have to give credit to Garrett because he done all the research on this and I didn't have to. That's a great thing. But Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories in California did a test on lead. And we all know that diamonds are made from coal, and it's extreme pressure is applied. And it comes out, a chunk of coal comes out to be a diamond. Well, the Livermore Laboratories in California done a test on lead. And we all know that lead is very soft. We use it for bullets. We use it because it expands rapidly. We can dent it with a fingernail. There are certain things that it's good for, but it's definitely not good for a knife. It's definitely good for springs on your car. But they did a test on lead, and they put it under extreme pressure, equivalent to being at the core of the earth. I don't know, it was like 400 gigapascals. I have no idea what that word means, but that's the way they do this testing. 1 gigapascal is equivalent to being 6 miles below the surface of the ocean. That's how much pressure it is. 1. They put 400 of those on this piece of lead. And surprising enough, it changed it. It reformed its crystalline structure to be more like tungsten or chromium. Lead became 10 times stronger than high-strength steel under that much pressure. That's a lot of pressure. One of the things they found out afterwards, too, was the fact that lead was scarred. Because of the increased pressure, the lead was scarred. It was strengthened, but yet scarred. Colin Ray wrote a song that talked about scars. Mostly it was physical, what we go through. Some of these scars are deep, some are not. Some never hurt at all, and some hurt a lot. Some are there from our mistakes and are all that's left to show from the choices that we've made. But the pain that I remember is the pain that makes me stronger. I've had to look at life that way. I've learned to rise above it, to keep from going under. Take it step by step, day by day. And I'm not ashamed of what you see, because every single scar has become a part of me. All I know is here and now. Yesterday's gone, and we made it through somehow. Every one of us can point out a scar on us. Now, some of us have a lot more than others, but every one of us has a scar. Some people like to brag about them. I was talking with Paul, and he said he had a brother, and he just loved to brag about the scars he had. Look at this one, look at this one. What are scars? Scars are signs of healing, aren't they? That means something is healed. When we look at James chapter 1, and starting in verse 2, it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance." Now, we always have a little difficulty in counting it all joy. That part of it is like, oh boy. But whenever you face trials of many kinds, how many of us have trials every day? How many of us are under extreme pressure? Under extreme trials in life? Whether it be disease, relationships, things of the world that is bombarding us. We go through this every day, don't we? And sometimes those pressures, those trials, those tests that we go through become unbearable. We're not going to make it through them. But if we go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, and we've studied this in our morning class. And look at verse 13. It says, "No temptation has seized you except that is common to man. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can stand under it." When you think about that, do we sometimes have the attitude that, well, whatever happens, I'm going to pull through this in flying colors because He's never going to give me more than I can stand? How much can you stand? Ask yourself, how much can you stand? And you think, well, I'm strong. I can do this. God is going to give you a little more. He's going to give you a little more. Because He wants you to survive the pressures, the trials, all the things that happen in our life. Why? Why does He want to do that to us? Why does He want to put us under so much pressure? If we look back at James and look at verse 4, it tells us that in verse 3 it says, because we go through these trials, you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. And in verse 4 it says, perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, lacking in nothing. If we did not go through those trials, that extreme pressure, we would be lacking, wouldn't we? We would not be mature. We would not be strong. If we didn't have that pressure on us. Now we have the confidence that when we are reaching the end of our rope, that God is there. As he said in 1 Corinthians. We have that confidence knowing, but he's not going to just reach in and grab us up at the slightest little pressure that, oh, I can't take anymore. He's going to put a lot on us. As he has. Each one of us here has had pressures almost too great to bear. And yet we're still here. We're still here worshiping the God that has put those pressures on us. It's unfortunate that there are some that have succumbed to the pressures, that have said it's not worth it, that I can't do it. And they have fallen away. As it said, God always gives us a way out. But if we don't look for that, we're going to miss it. If we're not constantly looking to God, we're going to miss it. And Satan's going to have a door open over here to say, it's okay, come over here. I'll relieve that pressure. But we will never become strong and lacking in nothing unless we go through these trials that it tells us. We have to. Byron gave me 2 pictures to use for my sermon. The other one would have worked good too. It showed a man that was scarred. But I thought, this one might be better. When you think of a lion, you think something mighty, something strong. But how did he get to be that way? It didn't just happen, did it? He had to go through a lot. You can see some of the scars on that lion's face right now. He had to go through a lot to be the king of the jungle. To be the one that we would look at and say, whew, that's a mighty animal there. There was another man. He took a lot of abuse. If we go to Matthew 26. We've all read this many, many times. About when Christ was in the garden and what he went through. He took his disciples there. He had them sit down, and then he took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him to another place in the garden. He said, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch." And in verse 39, he says, going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. Could you men not keep watch with me for but 1 hour? He asked Peter, watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak. He went again a second time and prayed, my Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done. When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed, and the third time saying the same thing. Then we returned to the disciples and said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour is near, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of the sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. I can't imagine the pressure that he was under at that time, knowing what was going to happen to him, knowing that one of his own was going to betray him shortly, that he was going to be put on trial, flogged, mocked, spit upon, and then hung upon a tree, crucified. Nails put in his wrists and his feet, and a spear piercing his side. Remember in John when Thomas wouldn't believe that he came back? He said, I'm not going to believe until I can put my hands in his hands, put my hand in his side. I want to see those what? Those scars. I'm not going to believe till I see them. When you read that account, it's almost as if he didn't even have to do that. Because as soon as he seen Jesus, he said, my Lord. When we think about all that has been done in life to us, we sometimes get discouraged. We get almost defeated. Because there seems to be so much going on, so much pressure, so many trials. If we turn over to Galatians chapter 6, we're going to see another man that was basically marked too. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 17, Paul is speaking here, and he says, finally, let no one cause me trouble, for I bear on my body the marks of Jesus. Now, his weren't actually the same marks of his hands and feet, or in his side, but he bore the marks of being stoned, of being whipped, of illness. How many things did he go through? He bore those marks of Christ. Paul done a real research on that. And those marks basically are scars. And the word stigma comes from that. It's kind of the base word. Now we all take stigma, we know what that is. We have a stigma against something. It's always a negative term, isn't it? We take it as a negative term. But in this case, it was a positive one. Because at that time, a lot of times slaves or whatever were branded. Because it showed what group or what alliance they were with. And sometimes today, in that negative sense, we have a stigma against a certain group of people. But this stigma is positive, because it shows that Paul is a part of a group that follows Christ. A group that takes on whatever comes their way for Christ. When we look at our lives, do we have scars for Christ? Do we have scars in our life that we have came through, that we have healed from the troubles and trials and tribulations that we face, living for Christ? I'm not talking about the cut on your hand you got last week from something. I'm talking about living for Christ, going through the troubles, the struggles, and coming out on the end with a scar that you can say, I got this because I stood for Christ. We should all have scars. Every one of us. If we're living our life for Christ. If we don't have scars, we better look at who we're following. There's another song group, Casting Crowns, that has a song out, Scars. And a few of the lines here is this: I know the road we've walked was anything but easy. We picked up your share of scars along the way. Oh, but now you're standing in the sun and you've fought your fight and your race is run. The pain is 1,000,000 miles away. The only scars in heaven, they won't belong to me and you. There'll be no such thing as broken, and all the old will be made new. And the thought that makes me smile now, even as the tears fall down, is that the only scars in heaven are on the hands that hold you now. Think of that. Paul pointed out another song, and I read the words to it. And it was a reminder. The only thing in heaven that man will have made are the scars on Jesus. That's the only thing in heaven that man had made. And they will still be there to remind us what he has done for us. It's pretty important to have scars. Because as I said before, it's a sign of healing. It's a sign that we are on the right path. We are going to be made stronger, lacking in nothing. I always feel lacking at times. I don't have quite what it takes. But when we are persevering through the trials that we face each day, we can rest assured that we will be lacking in nothing. That we'll be stronger coming out on the other end. One of the things that's interesting in my line of work, working with leather and that, is that the only hide in the world, as far as I know, that when the animal gets a cut, a scrape, a scar, or whatever, the scar is actually stronger than the original hide, and that is on the kangaroo. The scar is actually stronger than the original hide. All other hides, it's not as strong. Scars are not something to be ashamed of. I think we should wear them proudly, because it's a sign that we have came through. If there's anyone here today that needs to make a change in their life, they've been struggling, they haven't had that confidence and knowing that there is someone there to help them through those troubling times. If there's anyone that has a need to be baptized into Christ for the forgiveness of their sins, let that be known as we stand and sing our closing song.